Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Trouble can often be traced to a single strong individual, the stirrer, the arrogant underlying, the poisoner of goodwill. If you allow such people room to operate, others will succumb to their influence. Do not wait for troubles they cause to multiply. Do not try to negotiate with them. They are irredeemable. Neutralize their influence by isolating or banishing them. Strike at the source of their trouble, and the sheep will scatter. Observance of the Law 1. In 6th century BC, the city-state of Athens had begun to establish a democracy that was to last over a century, a democracy that became the source of its power and its proudest achievement. But as the democracy evolved, so did a problem with the Athenians had never faced: how to deal with those who did not concern themselves with the cohesion of a small city surrounded by enemies, who did not work for its greater glory, but thought of only themselves and their own ambitions and petty intrigues. Violent punishment no longer suited the new civilized order that Athens had created. Instead, the citizens found another, more satisfying and less brutal way to deal with the chronically selfish. Every year they would gather in the marketplace and write on a piece of earthenware, an ostracon, which was the name of an individual they wanted to see banished from the city for 10 years. If a particular name appeared on 6,000 ballots, that person would be instantly exiled. If no one received 6,000 votes, the person with the most ostraca recording his name would suffer the 10-year ostracism. Interpretation. Time after time, these formidable, powerful men, military leaders, political leaders, who were seen to be flaunting their superiority in some way or another, would be the cause to them being exiled. Within any group, trouble can be most often traced to a single source: the unhappy, the chronically dissatisfied, one who will always stir up dissension and infect the group with his or her ill ease. Before you know what hits you, dissatisfaction spreads. Act before it becomes impossible to disentangle one strand of misery from another, or to see how the whole thing started. First, recognize troublemakers by their overbearing presence or by their complaining nature. Once you spot them, do not try to reform them or appease them. That will only make things worse. Do not attack them, whether directly or indirectly, for they are poisonous in nature and will work underground to destroy you. Do as the Athenians did. Banish them before it is too late. Separate them from the group before they come to the eye of the whirlpool. Do not give them time to stir up anxieties and sow discontent. Do not give them room to move. Let one person suffer so that the rest can live in peace. And this can be seen in real life in the workplace. It can be seen in groups of friends and social situations where there may be one or two individuals who tout their superiority and build resentment among the common folk or among those in below positions to them. And so it's recognizing that instead of going on the attack, you play a more subtle game, a more manipulative game. I think it's just a more intelligent game. Learn the lesson. Do not waste your time lashing out in all directions at what seems to be a many-headed enemy. Find the one head that matters, the person with willpower or smarts, or most important of all, charisma. Whatever it costs you, lure this person away. But once he is absent, his powers will lose their effect. His influence will lose their effect. Keys to power. Now, power has changed in its numbers, but not in its essence. There may be fewer mighty tyrants commanding the power of life and death over millions, like presidents and prime ministers, but there remain thousands of petty tyrants ruling smaller realms and enforcing their will through indirect power games, charisma, and so on. And this is what I was talking about within workplaces and social situations. Thousands of CEOs and managers who have influence but are ruling in kind of a tyrannical way. In every group, power is concentrated in the hands of one or two people, for this is the one area in which human nature will never change. People will congregate around a single strong personality like planets orbiting the sun. We've all seen this every day. We see this. It's funny, I saw this literally yesterday, last night. I'll paint the picture for you. I was in a social setting. I was sitting around a group of women, around a group of girls, and I was just listening to them talk and go back and forth. But there was this one individual who sat somewhere in the center, and she had commanded the attention of everybody in the group, everybody in the circle. Now, she did this through her personality. Everybody congregated around her, and she drove the conversation When people were wanting to be reminded of a certain story, they would go to her. They'd be like, oh, you remember this? Oh, remember that? She commanded such respect and authority through her skills, through her social skills of being able to hold the room and make people laugh and do it with charisma and confidence, that everybody congregated around her. And if she was to leave, the dynamics would change. The emotions would shift. Powerful people never waste time. Outwardly, they may play along with the game, pretending that power is shared among many, but inwardly, they keep their eye on the inevitable few in the group who hold the cards. These are the ones they work on. Dr. Milton Erickson, a family therapist, found that if the family dynamic was unsettled and dysfunctional, there was inevitably one person who was the stirrer, the troublemaker. In his sessions, he would symbolically isolate this rotten apple by seating him or her apart from the others, if only by a few feet. Slowly, the other family members would see the physically separate person as the source of their difficulty. Once you recognize who the stirrer is, pointing it out to other people will accomplish a great deal. Understanding who controls the group dynamic is a critical realization. Remember, stirrers thrive by hiding in the group, disguising their actions among the reactions of others, render their actions visible, and they lose the power to upset. A key element in games of strategy is isolating the enemy's power. In chess, you try to corner the king. In the Chinese game of Go, you try and isolate the enemy's forces in small pockets, rendering them immobile and ineffectual. So the lesson is, it is often better to isolate your enemies than destroy them. You seem less brutal. The result, though, is the same, for in the game of power, isolation spells death. Now, I deeply resonated with the following statement, and I'll tell you why after I read it. You will often find powerful people who have alienated themselves from the group. Perhaps their power has gone to their heads, and they consider themselves superior. Perhaps they have lost the knack of communicating with the ordinary folk. Remember, this makes them vulnerable. Powerful though they may be, people like this can be turned to use. Now, I do not consider myself a powerful person, but I believe that I am one to alienate myself from groups and social settings, friends, etc., etc. Now, I do this for a couple different reasons, but one is because I enjoy the chaos of my life. I enjoy working on all the projects I have. I enjoy working. I enjoy creating, and I need it, right? I need to be doing something positive to create into the world, and I can only socialize and talk bullshit for so long before I need to get back to the work, to the grind that I so love. So by not attending certain events, we can alienate ourselves. Whether one of my close friends is listening to this right now or not, they probably understand exactly what I'm saying. And I'm pretty certain that I've probably been perceived and talked about as thinking I'm superior to others. I was thinking, oh, he's too good for us. Oh, he's too arrogant. Oh, he's this, he's that. I'm pretty certain those are conversations that have been had and are still being had. I understand the results of my actions. I sometimes get lazy and caught up to not communicate. Robert uses the ordinary folk, but it doesn't mean ordinary folk. It just means the average person, the average friend, the people who grew up with you. While I do not consider myself superior to them, and you may not consider yourself superior to other groups of friends you may be trying to distance yourselves to, or just not being able to be as present within, I believe it just comes down to different priorities. But then it's a lack of communication on my behalf, if you're in the situation as well. But then you realize that the cause is basically a lack of communication, that people assume you may think you're superior to them because you haven't communicated to them that, well, my priorities are different to yours. So that's where the dangers can arise in people and groups and social people and friends thinking that, oh, why do you think you're better than me, man? You ain't better than me. And this makes a person vulnerable. This makes a person vulnerable to downfall, to having no friends or a smaller number. Image: a flock of flattered sheep. Do not waste precious time trying to steal a sheep or two. Do not risk life and limb by setting upon the dogs that guard the flock. Aim at the shepherd. Lure him away and the dogs will follow. Strike him down and the flock will scatter. You can pick them off one by one. Reversal: any harm you do to a man should be done in such a way that you need not fear his revenge. Writes Machiavelli, if you act to isolate your enemy, make sure he lacks the means to repay the favor. If you apply this law, in other words, apply it from a position of superiority so that you have nothing to fear from his resentment. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.